Right. So, yeah, you got what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Very good. Very good. So,
Doctor?
yeah? Yes?
So we will have like 2 or 3 quotations. That's it. Or there is another question.
Well, I said 3 main questions. The first one, quotations. And the second one, maybe I will ask you about something about a theme or an idea by an author or by a certain author. And the next one, or maybe, it could be 2 questions only, not yet really decided. It could be only 2 questions, because remember, the exam is only 20 marks, and I think I will have enough time to have maybe, as I said, 2 questions or 3. The second or the third, it will be about an idea about the author. For example, I say Mark Twain did this and this, discuss. Or if I say to you, you know, Huckleberry Finn is a novel about racism, discuss. In what ways do you think that Huckleberry Finn is not about racism? And I say discuss. You know, here I want you to give me your own evaluation and ideas about the text. So this would be a thematic question. Do you understand? Or if I say Walt Whitman in his poetry, Walt Whitman in his poetry was talking about romanticism. I say discuss. In what ways?
Yes, we understand.
Sorry? Sarah, you said something, yeah, Sarah?
No,
Doctor?
I think I just said we understand.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, Wafa?
The discussion will be in a paragraph or essay?
Well, I will specify. I will say in a paragraph or in 2 paragraphs, or I will leave it for you to write the way you like. But I will say don't write more than 200 words, for example. You know, I will leave it for you. You could write in points. You could write in. It depends on the answer of the question. But I will specify. I will tell you in a paragraph or in 2 paragraphs or something. I will specify. Don't worry. But it will be a general, evaluative, argumentative answer. I want you to give me your own feelings, your own things about how you understand this text. You understand, my boys and girls?
Yes.
Very good. You can
Yes,
ask
doctor.
me any question later on, no problem. If you don't feel you can ask later, no problem. You can always send me messages or send me emails or anything. Don't ever feel frightened or shy, or I will answer all your questions. I have no problems at all. All right? Okay, so today, to go back to right, let me okay, so last time, any question about the novel before I begin again? Right, last time, where did we stop? Do you remember chapter 4, was it? Where were we? Chapter 4?
We're still in chapter 3.
We finished chapter 3, correct?
Yes.
We finished it. Or maybe not, I don't know. Yeah, I think we did.
But chapter
remember here, of course.
But not all
Yeah.
of chapter
Yes.
3.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the idea really here we were saying, and I think I said here in this section at the end of this, Huckleberry Finn is emphasizing really his own, if you like, way of life and the way they were dealing with all this question of being and the question of being gangsters and so on, and being a wild boy, and you know all what the boys did and all this. And again, as I said, this is really, you know, a terrible thing. For example, he said we played in a paragraph here. If I share with you the yeah, maybe I will share this and then for a minute, and then I will yeah, here. Notice here we played robbers now and then I resigned. All the boys did. We had not robbed nobody, had not killed any people, but only just pretended. We used to hop out of the woods and go charging down on hog drivers and women in carts, taking garden stuff to market. But we never hived any of them. Now, remember, I think here, this passage here, or this section, really tells us that, you know, we said we will kill people. We said we will do this, and we will rob them, and we will kill them. And then he said, oh, we did not. Oh, we did not. You know, we pretended to, but we did not. Again, to me, I think I can, you know, explain this psychologically, explain it to say, well, you know, we said that, but we were innocent and we did not do that. Therefore, don't believe all the things that people say. We are good people. We never killed people. But you see, again, I think this is too late to say that, because we don't believe them anyway, because the reality was not like that at all. And of course, it tells us, at least at this stage, it tells us, you know, this is only, you know, the level of the child, or the childhood, you know, phase, and maybe later on when they became, you know, older, they killed and killed and killed. And really, this is the terrible thing at the end of the day. And I think the last point here, I think we talked about the magicians and the, you know, the witchcrafting and all this question of, you know, magics and genies and all this. You know, I think also was interesting, and I mentioned this to you before last time when we talked about, you know, whether we believe in all this carry on. And I said this was the American society in general, about how they believe in all of this. So in chapter 4, they continued with this. As you can see here, he said, well, 3 or 4 months run along, and it was well into the winter now. I had been to school most all the time, and could spell and read and write just a little, and could say the multiplication table up to 6 times 7, up to 6 times 7 is, you know, and I don't reckon I could even get any further than that if I was to live forever. I don't take no stock in mathematics anyway. Again, I think, you know, I think, as I said, the narrator here spent a lot of time telling us about himself, you know, a lot about his life, about his education, and then finally how he ran away. And as I said, this details, as I said, to introduce us in a good way to the novel, and mainly to the character of Huckleberry Finn as a good boy, as a nice boy, and so on. But really, the image we receive all the time, because when he helped, we only like him because he helped this slave Jim, really. Whenever I got uncommon tired, I played hockey, and the hiding I got next day done me good and cheered me up. So the longer I went to school, the easier it got to be. I was getting sort of used to the widow's ways too, and they weren't too rhapsodic on me. Again, he goes back to tell us about the ways in which he was, taught and helped and educated by this widow, Mrs. Douglas, as he said, and the way sometimes he gives us, a bad, and that's why, of course, not because she's a bad woman, but because he is the one who's wild and he can't, if you like, withstand these, circumstances. And that's why he said, when he said, again, of course, always in the exam, when I give you a passage from here, you have to tell me something about the grammar and the structure and the really why this is done like that. You have to tell me this because it's important. Are you okay? You still with me? No, I did not lose connection. Good. So notice here, he said, living in a house and sleeping in a bed pulled on me pretty tight mostly. But before the old weather, I used to slide out and sleep in the woods sometimes. And so that was a rest to me. Notice, of course, here the contrast between living at home in a really cozy, comfortable house and wanting to go and live in the woods. Again, I think, I really want you always to think of, to compare and contrast Rip Van Winkle, the story we studied before last year or last term, and this one, because Rip was like that, wanting always to be in the outside, in the woods, in the wilderness, and to be outside, not living inside or indoors. I like the old ways best, but I was getting so I knew once too a little bit. The widow said I was coming along slow but sure and doing very satisfactory. She said she weren't ashamed of me. Again, notice this funny English. She weren't, it's really amazing. Meaning she was not, So you see here, we can see the positive thing that he looks at Mrs. Douglas, or the widow Douglas, right? Because she's a nice woman. She's a really nice woman. And as I said, she played like his mother. But as I said, because she sometimes could not control him completely. And that's why he, ran away. So notice here, of course, he wanted to say this, in the next few paragraphs, and on about it. Notice here, I went down to the front garden and clumped over the tile where you go through the high board fence. There was an inch of new snow on the ground, and I seen nobody's tracks. Again, as I said, this shows his crazy attitude, his wild attitude. And at the end of the day, the whole thing is to do with his own makeup, if you like, his own nature. And then he went to Judge Thatcher. Notice, I was up in a second and shining down the hill. I looked over my shoulder every now and then, but I didn't see nobody. Again, notice this funny English or double negatives. Didn't see nobody. I was at Judge Thatcher's as quick as I could get there. He said, "Why, my boy, you are out of breath. Did you come for your interest?" So he's an important twist in the events, because remember, the money he gave it all to the judge in the bank to save it for him. And now the judge or Judge Thatcher is asking him, what do you want? You coming for your interest? No, sir, I says. Is there some for me? Oh, yes. A half yearly is in last night, over $150. Quite a fortune for you. You had better let me invest it along with your 6,000, because if you take it, you will spend it. Again, I think I must maybe draw your attention here that maybe even the novel here is drawing our attention to the economical side of the American life here, to the economical really mentality, maybe the materialistic mentality, the crazy, you know, economical materialistic mentality. The question of gain and interest, of gaining and getting more money, and the greed that people maybe have been brought up with. And I think this is, important to understand how the whole of the American mentality operates. Even today, even today, when you think of President Trump these days, all the time he talks of money and he talks of power, and he talks of profit and gain. How much he's always thinking in terms of trade and money and, deals and, things like that, which is really sometimes is too much. Always to think in terms of gain and winning and getting and greedy and stealing people's money and so on and so forth. This attitude is the background, really is, if you like, in the background mentality of the American mind here, that people went there because they want to work and get more money. And this question of materialism and gain, and the question of robbing people and stealing from people and killing people for money and so on, is, if you like, here really well established in the American mentality. Mainly, I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying this is highlighted here in this example by Mark Twain to talk about the question of the social, ideological, materialistic mentality of the American mind, American individual. And he said, no, sir, I says, again, look at this English, I says, we never say I says, we say he says or she says, right? But not I says, and even it's in the past, you should say I said, not I says. Is there some for me? Oh, yes. Again, he said, a half yearly is in last night. Oh, I read this. And then he said, no, sir, I says, I don't want to spend it. I don't want it at all. Nor the 6,000, neither. Look at this word, neither means neither. Again, this is a very funny English. Neither means neither. Neither nor, right? This is the way we pronounce it. I pronounce it in the English way. We say neither, not neither. American, they say neither. Either and neither. The British, they say either and neither. Anyway, so here the word, he means neither. I want you to take it. I want to give it to you. The 6,000 and all. The boy here is saying, I want to give you all this money. I don't want it. Of course, we don't believe him now, because he's going to explain why. Notice, he looked surprised. He couldn't seem to make it out. He says, why? What can you mean, my boy? I says, don't you ask me no questions about it, please. Look at this funny English again. Don't you ask me no questions. Again here, a young boy saying to a big man, to a judge, to say, don't ask me these questions in a very bad way. People normally, young people, don't speak to older people like that. But of course, we see here the wild, crazy Huck again said, he says, notice he says, well, I'm puzzled. Is something the matter? Please take it, says I. and don't ask me nothing, and I won't have to tell you no lies. He studied a while, and then he says, oh, I think I see. You want to sell all your property or not give it. That's the correct idea. You see, notice here, if you want to sell, this is the correct idea. Again, this is another sign of what I mean about the economical, mental, or I'm saying materialistic thing. You don't give, but you sell. Don't give, but sell. Well, then he wrote something on a paper and read it over and says, there, you see it says, for a consideration. That means I have thought it of, paid you for it. Here is $1 for you. Now you sign it. So he signed a paper saying all this money is yours. So I signed it and left. Now here we are really surprised. He said, why? Why did he do that? Of course, later we know why, because he wants to, he knows that his father is going to rob him and take all the money from. That's why he thought, if his father comes to the judge, he will take all the money because the money belongs to his son. And really, this is the idea. Again, notice Miss Watson's nigger. Again, he comes back to tell us about Miss Watson's Jim. Again, nigger Jim had a hairball as big as your fist. You know, again, notice how the way he describes him. He said about his hairball. What's that hairball? You know, it's really terrible the way he describes him in a very negative way, to describe a boy, a man with a hairball, meaning his head is very small like a ball, and this ball is full of hair. I think this is ugly to say that by Huck, to describe Jim like that. Again, this is racism. Really, this is absolutely racial discrimination. This young boy, this young man, I should say, I mean Jim. At the end of this course, I'm going to tell you what I'm drinking here. I'm not going to show you that till the end of the course. Right. Right. So he describes him, notice he said, as big as your fist, which had been took out of the fourth stomach of an ox, and he used to do magic with it. Again, I think, you know, in a way, at the beginning you think it's a ball, meaning his head, or really it could mean he has a real ball, you know, like a football, like a small football, but it's made of hair, you know. And I think, again, the whole idea, really, the whole thing is meant to be for comedy and mockery for the young boy. I mean, for Jim. Notice here, Jim put the quarter under the hairball and got down and listened again. This time he said the hairball was all right. He said it would tell my whole fortune if I wanted it to. I says, go on. So the hairball talked to him, and Jim told it to me. He says, again, this is really a funny thing about the magic and the hairball. Again, as I said, originally I meant to say about his head like a hair, or sorry, like a ball, or to describe his head like a hairball, or he himself to have a hairball which is magical. Where is the magic in his head, or is it, you know, is the ball that he has which talks? Again, I think this is one of the childish, funny magician thing that we find it really amazing. And sometimes it's funny by Mark Twain. You say, come on, what's this, Mark Twain? So here, as if to say that this hairball is like, you know, the genie thing that, you know, if you have a bottle with the genie in it, and will tell you about what you want and about what the future. And here again, we see the story of, you know, Jim operating or playing or acting the role of the genie, and who's telling the future, what's going to happen, you know, like a fortune teller, which is really funny and really amazing. Again, really, we see how much really Mark Twain is mocking the American society. And notice how Jim speaks. Your old father don't know yet what he going to do. You know, as if to say, your father is going, you don't know what your father is going to do with you. Sometimes he'll go away and then again, he'll stay. The best way is to rest easy and then let old man take his own way. As if to say, he's telling him, your father, don't worry about your father. You know, your father is not going to do anything wrong with you. Don't worry. And your father, he said, will come back, because he thought that his father was dead, and he was running away even from his father. And here again, we find that, you know, he meets his father. And he says to him, the white one gets him to go right a little while, then and then the black one sail and burst it up. A body can tell yet which one going to fetch him at last, you know, at the last. And you is all right. You will all be anyway. So here he's telling him that your father he will come back maybe to you. Don't worry, you will be fine. So read all this. Really, you can see the funny English language here, spoken by Jim, and you have really to guess and see what he means by this. Going to get sick, but every time you will going to get well again. Do you see two goals flying about you in your life? One of them is light and the other one is dark. One is rich and the other one is poor. You are going to marry the poor one first, then the rich one, and then the rich one by and by. You want to keep away from the water as much as you can, but don't run on no risk. And because the case it's down in the bills that are going to get hung. When I lit my candle and went up to my room that night, there sat Pap, his own self. So remember here this idea that Jim was telling Huck, don't worry, your father will be fine. At the end of the day, you will be okay. Your father may come and your father will be fine, blah, blah, blah. And he was telling him his future. And he said, well, by chance, the next day, my father was right in front of me. He came to me. And of course, we know here, we see him in chapter, his father wants to really take him away and to steal him from this Mrs. Douglas, and because he said, I don't want you to get this education. Again, it shows, again, the Rip Van Winkle syndrome, really. The Rip Van Winkle idea about wanting to be always in the wilderness and not to worry about education at all. So here came and kidnapped his son and took him to the forest to live with him, as like, to live really like robbers again. I think it's really funny, but this is the idea, to see how much this novel is really very amazing and similar, or an example of the wild, strange American way of life. I had shut the door too. Then I turned round and there he was. I used to be scared of him all the time. He tanned me so much. What's he tanned me? What's tan? To tan me, to tan someone. What does it mean? Yeah. Oh, somebody is saying, oh, I see. Yeah, Wafa saying, I think, Wafa saying, I think the doctor can't see. Oh, oh, I see. Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, Sarah said, what does he mean by the white ones and the black ones? Oh, I see. Sorry, Sarah, I did not see that. Yes, absolutely, because I was not looking at the chat. Yeah, to go back, really, he means, he means whether the dark one about life, he wants to say about the dark one, because he's talking here about the comparison and contrast between, a good life and a bad life, or if you like, maybe miserable life. Here, that's why he symbolically used the word dark and white. Again, really here to compare, for Jim, the boy Jim, to him everything is compared between, or is used in these symbolical ways about dark and white. I was reading from the text. I could not see the chat, so that's why I couldn't answer you immediately. Okay, so this is really the idea here. Yeah. So the idea I want to say here, that to tan someone really means to beat somebody. Like somebody we say, oh, we went to the sea to get suntan. Suntan, tan means to get really brown color, to get really burnt a little bit by the sun. And here he's saying tanned me means really he beat me. He beat me a lot to have really brown skin, because he was a very horrible father. This is the idea. He was saying that his father was a bad man, to really punish him and beat him all the time. So that's why he said, I used to be scared of him all the time. He tanned me so much, I reckoned I would now too, but in a minute I see I was mistaken. That is, after the first jolt, as you may say, when my breath sort of hitched, he being so unexpected. But right away after I see I wasn't scared of him, worth bothering about. So here he's telling us, immediately how he feels towards his father. His father was really very bad to him. He was beating him all the time. And he said, I was terrified to see my father first. But now he said, well, now I see that he's maybe okay. But of course, Huck is wrong, because he told us here, as you can see, he was mostly He's telling us here about his father. He's describing his father. And really, this is a lovely description, a lovely, really characterization of our friend, the Huckleberry's father. He was about 50 and he looked it. His hair was long and tangled and greasy and hung down, as you could see, his eyes shining through like he was behind vines. You know, as if to say his eyes are shining because he seemed to be drunk. You know, behind vines means he was drinking wine. And, you know, notice here really the funny English and really the lovely good English now he's using. And here really Mark Twain is writing is not really Huck, if you like the way he describes his father in a terrible way. He's saying, again, this is exactly like Rip Van Winkle, or exactly like young Goodman Brown. Like young Goodman Brown in that story we have done by Hawthorne. And notice he said, it was all black, no gray, so was his long mixed up whiskers. There weren't no color in his face. Where his face showed, it was white, not like another man's white, but a white to make a body sick, a white to make a body's flesh crawl, a three-toed white, a fish belly white. What do you think? Hello, my boys and girls. What do you think of this description? Do you think this is positive or negative? Hello, boys, girls?
Negative, sir. Negative.
Negative, yes. Sarah?
It's negative.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the way he is describing, like it sounds like a child language, so
yeah,
the writer is very smart, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea really he's giving here is quite really important to tell us how his father and he's really showing it in an ugly way, meaning he's white, but his whiteness is terrible. He doesn't look human. You know, we say flesh crawl means you really get terrified by his looks, by his whiteness. And when he said three-toed white, I think this is absolutely funny description or metaphor, like a toad. You know toad? You know these wild frogs that live on trees? They are really funny, ugly looking white frogs. And toad sometimes given as, you know, the male or female, you know, frog, and really the description here is horrible. Again, to say the fish belly white. As for his clothes, just rags. That was all. Well, like father, like son, isn't it? Like father, like son, because Huck is also always in rags. He had one ankle resting on the other knee. The boot on that foot was busted, and two of his toes stuck through, and he worked them now and then. His hat was laying on the floor, an old black slouch with the top caved in like a lid. You know, I think this is an amazing description of the looks of his father. His hat, his body, his face, his, you know, the way his describing his shoes, how his toes are sticking out of his toes sticking out of his boots, and which is really amazing description. Of course, it's negative and graphic and funny and comical and yet tragic at the same time, to say what's wrong with this man. I stood looking at him. Again, I stood looking at him. I don't know what's this here. I stood looking. I stood looking at him. What's why sa could mean have. I stood having or have. It doesn't work here. It's not grammatical to say I stood have looking. I stood looking at him. Why looking at him? Again, this is funny English. Again, he said they're looking at me, as if to say, and he is looking at me. I stood, again, you can see this funny English, and you really need to study this structure to get it through and to understand it in a good way. With his chair tilted back a little, I set the candle down. I listened, the windows up. Sorry, I noticed the window was up. So he had clumped in by the shed. He kept looking at me all over. By and by, he says, again, he kept looking me, or maybe looking at me, or maybe I stood looking at him. I don't know. I mean, this is really funny English. Starchy clothes very. You think you are a good deal of a big bug. Bug here. Bug is like a little insect. Notice here the father is speaking to his son. Look at this language. What a horrible language. Starchy clothes very. Well, he's saying maybe you're looking at me or I'm looking at you. The way you are dressed, could mean his clothes. Is he describing his clothes or his son's clothing? Is this, this is, looking him, he said, what are you thinking of me? You terrible louse. Little bug here, a big bug, don't you? A bug really is like a louse, or like a flea, or like an insect, or like an ant, or like a mosquito, or like something like a cockroach or something. And he's saying, you terrible boy, why are you looking at me like this? Maybe I am, maybe I ain't, I says. Remember, his father told him, you're a big bug. And the son said, well, maybe. Notice here, the boy is terrible. Don't you give me none of your lip, says he. Meaning, don't show me your intelligence. Don't answer me like that. You have put on considerable many frills since I have been away. Meaning, as if you are speaking now in good English since I left you. Don't speak to me like that in good English, you terrible boy. Because he said comfortable frills. Frills means your English is being decorated. Now is full of, decorations. Don't speak to me like that. And remember, Jim is speaking really just normal, good English. His father doesn't like that because he hates good English. I'll take you down a peg before I get down with you. So he said, again, he said to him, I'm going to bring you down from what you are now before I will be with you. You think you're educated. Let me bring you down to earth. You are educated too, they say. Can you read and write? You think you are better in your father now, don't you? Because he can't. I will take it out of you. Who told you you might meddle with such, with such hellfoot Health with foolishness. Hey, who told you you could? Now, really, this passage shows the ugly father, the terrible father. You know, he doesn't like the way his son is educated. He doesn't like the way his son is getting education. He doesn't like the way his son is getting better and in his looks, or even his clothing, in his English, in his speech, in the way he answers, and all this. And because now he knows that his son has money, and he came to take the money, you know. And now he's mocking him. He said, you think you have education? You think you are better than me? You are terrible boy. Remember, this is really funny and ridiculous and crazy for a father to speak like this to his son, to deride his son, to reproach his son, to speak bad with his son because his son is better than him, because his son is getting education. I think no father will do that. Again, he said, you think you are better in your father? In means you better than your father now, don't you? Because he can't, you know, as if to say, you know, he's saying to him, you are a terrible boy to think that you are better than me. Better than your father, you are a terrible boy, because you can't be better than your father. I will make sure that you are not better than your father. Again, really, this is ugly and this is terrible, because parents and fathers don't do that. Parents and fathers don't say that. In fact, in the contrary, say that fathers, the only thing for a father to want anybody to be better than him is his son. Nobody, you know, for a father would accept to be better than him except his own son. And here, really, this man is giving us the opposite. The opposite, which is, again, I think Mark Twain is mocking American society, or the lazy, wild, Rip Van Winkle society. Really, Rip Van Winkle society. Who told you you might meddle with such helfer in foolishness? Hey, you know, hellfooten or something like this means you crazy, stupid, you know, ugly boy, you foolish boy. Huh? Who told you to do this with me? Who told you? And then the widow, she told me, you know, the widow, of course, he's taught by the widow. The widow, hey? And who told the widow she could put in her shovel about a thing that ain't none of her business? Look at the word shovel. Shovel? What's that? To put in her shovel about a thing that ain't none of her business. You know the word shovel? You know, to shovel, this is the like, really like a digging thing that dig in with the ground, and you used to take the earth and, you know, to throw the earth from one place to another. We say shoveling, in a shovel. And really this is like, you know, those people who dig graves or who dig anything, farmers who use this to shovel the earth. And I think this is a very funny metaphor here. He's saying, it's none of her business. Why she's teaching you this? Again, notice here, he compared, you know, the widow's education like shoveling into his information, shoveling and teaching him something. He's saying, why she should be, who allowed her, who made her to do this to you? I will not let her do that to you. As if to say, what she's teaching you is horrible. And that's why he said, shovel. Again, this is absolutely the opposite of reality and the negative thing of reality. Again, the son, in a very funny way, said, nobody never told her. Well, I will learn her how to meddle. Again, look at this English I will learn her. I will teach her. How to meddle means how to interfere. You are my son. Why? Who made her? Who allowed her? Why she is interfering with your life? You are my son. She has nothing to do with you. And looky here. Again, looky here. Again, look at this, funny English. You drop that school. You hear? What father is this? Boys, girls, what father is this? I will learn people to bring you up, to bring up a boy to put on earth over his own father, and let on to be better when he is. He's angry that, he's angry that his son and he's going to be better than his father because his father is a wild man. So he's saying, I'm going to teach these people who are teaching you to be better than me. Who is teaching you to be better than your father? What kind of education is this? I'm going to, stop this. You should stop this education. I will take you out of this school. You let me catch fooling around that school again. You hear? Your mother couldn't read, and she couldn't write neither before she died. You see, now we know that she's dead, as he said. I told you in the story we have mentioning, and I really forgot about it here, that it's mentioned here, but I think I read it, before, that she's dead, and you can see it's here. So notice how he is so terrible. None of the family couldn't there be before they died. I can't, and here you are swelling yourself up like this. I ain't the man to stand it. You hear? Say, let me hear you read. He said to him, I don't want you to go to that school and you will stop. Nobody in our family read, and I don't want you to read. Everybody of our family died and they don't know how to care about reading, and you should stop it. Who? And notice he said, swelling yourself, meaning you are showing off. You are showing off your education. You are, swelling up and up and up, and swelling, meaning you are showing off, and we can't accept it. Therefore, I'm going to stop this. Well, what a father. Really, what a father. Isn't it? Hello? Hello, girls?
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Boys? Yeah, you got that? In the exam, this is how I want you to make your commentary about your language, about the structure, about the sentences, the choice of words. As I said, the syntax, the diction, the language, the narrator, who is speaking and to whom, and the theme, the idea, and so on, briefly. I say briefly. And of course, how you connect these sentences in a good way. This is how I want you to do it in the exam, the way I'm doing it. You can see I spent the whole hour, the whole lecture reading maybe about 3 pages only, because I want to teach you how to read novels. Got it? Iman, Sarah, Wafa, you got it, boys, girls, Afra, Khulud, Princess, Maria? Where's our princess here? Yeah. Okay, any question? Questions?
No, thanks.
Okay, so that's it then for today.